Welcome to Bridges. I'm Monica Schmelter. I'm so glad that you could join us. My first guest today is Mary Ellis Kenley, and she is an author and a counselor, and the book name is Lessons from the Porch. Mary Ellis, so good to have you here today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Now, I love the title of your book, Lessons from the Porch. How did you come up with that?
Well, after my retirement, when I was 60 years old, I went back to school to become a Christian marriage and family counselor. And we are blessed in our lives to live in an old house on a lake in Alabama, and so much of my counseling is done right out there on that porch. And so lessons are learned there. Many of them are lessons that I learned.
That's right.
Because many times when you counsel, you learn. It seems that I learn more than I teach in those counseling sessions.
And it sounds to me, Mary Ellis, like you've had a pretty busy life. I understand you worked as a lobbyist, and then you retire at age 60, decide to go back to school and become a marriage and family counselor.
I did. I did.
And so, what is this book about? What are you trying to say to people?
I'm trying to say to people, for the most part, somebody's been there before you. In Psalm 23, we read about the path, and it occurs to me that a path is where somebody's already walked. Yeah. And it's really kind of cool, I think, to know that there's somebody in the world who's been where you've been, and it's not and doesn't mind taking the time to sit and talk with you and spend time with you and guide you from God's Word.
Yeah. And Mary Ellis, I think that's one of the things that, kind of just when I look at our culture, that I think we're a little bit deficient in, because families live so far away from each other that I think probably some years ago that, like, grandmas could pass down to moms. Yes, I've been where you are as a young mom, or, I've been married for 30 years, so I can help you. You've only been married for 5 years. And I think sometimes we don't know who to ask, like who's been on this path before and who can help. Are you feeling like the book kind of speaks to those issues?
It does. And the book has grown out of some posts that I made on Facebook. I believe social media, like television, is something that Christians can use to spread the gospel. And the book actually came as a result of numerous requests from those people who read my daily posts and said, let's put this in a book so we can read it. So those are lessons that I learned in counseling and that others have learned in counseling, and that's just where it was born, just out of a need.
Now, I was looking at the back of the book, and I noticed you refer to somebody as awesome, wonderful.
Oh, he is both. He is awesome and he is wonderful. His name is Dr. Bob Kenley, and he is the man with whom I have spent 49 years of my life as of today.
Well, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
49th wedding anniversary is miraculous.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. A wedding picture is posted on the book's Facebook page today if anybody wants to look at what it looks like 49 years earlier.
And 49 years later, you're still able to say awesome, wonderful.
He is, and more so every day.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And the reason I brought that up is because if I was going to learn lessons from somebody, I would want it to be from somebody who had been married for 49 years and could say about their husband honestly that they felt like he was awesome, wonderful. And I know that you've got a couple of kids and grandkids. Are some of your posts and lessons about mothering and grandmothering?
Yes, they are. A lot of what I have to say on Facebook is about things I've learned as a grandmother. Of course, although I had been a mother for a long time, I hadn't been a grandmother before. And just lessons that you learn about staying out of your kids' business.
And we need to talk about that, because I know there's a lot of young adults that are like, I wish my parents would stay out of my business.
And really, many of the phone calls that I receive from women that I learned through the MOPS ministry, many of those phone calls are because mom has gotten a little over-involved and they just need some kind of objective advice from someone.
So, do you give advice to like a young married couple whose, parents might be overly involved in their marriage, and what would you say?
Oh, many people end up on my counseling couch. And we just talk about, I find that many times it's because the kids themselves, the young adults, have gone back to mom and dad asking advice, and that sort of opens that door.
Yes, it does.
And so I think if we can have strong husbands and wives who go first to the Word, Word and first to the Lord, that those things will kind of iron themselves out. I'm more than happy to help when somebody calls, but it's really kind of cool to see when those mother-daughter relationships and those father-daughter relationships are healed and that they can once again right themselves.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. And I do think that you bring up a very valid point, Mary Alice, that if a young adult keeps going back to mom and dad and saying that they're having problems or complaining about their spouse, it does open up the door for a lot of conversation probably that shouldn't be happening.
Right. When we were married about 2 months, something happened, and I don't even remember what it was, but I thought that my husband had made a gross error, and I went to my daddy. And Daddy said to me, honey, unless he has hurt you, he said, I don't want to hear this, because he said, when he comes home tonight, everything is going to be wonderful, and I'll be lying in bed counting the dots on the ceiling, being mad at your husband.
That's right. That's right. Well, because for a parent, you're always going to take your kid's part.
Oh, absolutely.
And you don't want this other person saying this or that or the other thing to them. And the couple's long gotten over it, and these poor parents
were stuck
and feeling like their kid's being mistreated.
Right.
So your dad was able to set that boundary.
Oh, he did set that boundary. He did, and we are so in love with our daughters-in-law. I call them my daughters-in-love.
Your daughters-in-love. That's wonderful.
I do. I love those girls.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, do you stay out of their business?
I do stay out of their business. You better believe it. I have enough to think about all on my own.
Well, that's one of the things that you shared with me, because a lot of people think that, you know, like when you're retirement age, that there's not a lot to do or that it's not that enjoyable, and you're really finding, Mary Alice, that the opposite is true.
I'm just getting started. When I read the scripture, my very favorite scripture in the whole world is Psalm 37. I love every word of it. But it says, toward the end, I think it is, I have been young and I'm now old, but I've never seen the righteous forsaken or his seed begging bread. You can sleep on that.
Amen.
And then, you know, I figure, stay or go, we've got it covered.
And that's exactly right.
It
that's
is
exactly
right. I can't lose.
Yeah, and one of the things I thought of, Mary Alice, when I looked at your book, Lessons from the Porch, and I love it that it's at Kenley Cove. That's what you call your place?
That's the name of our place. We name everything at our house.
I saw you named your vacuum cleaner. Vicky,
I did. Vicki
cleaner?
has been with me since 1985. And
no way.
Yes, we are old friends.
Old friends.
Yes.
Well, I guess you would be.
Yes, we are. Vicki is my buddy.
That's awesome. You know, I think that the best life lessons are the ones that we learn alongside of people that we love, you know, that we respect. And most of us long for, you know, kind of a mentor, somebody that has been there before to share with us. And I kind of look at this book as that opportunity. Are there some favorite lessons that you have in this book that you might give us an outline of?
I think one of my favorite lessons is patience. I think God puts us in a classroom sometimes, and my classroom a couple of years ago was called pneumonia.
Yeah.
And so I determined, a lot of people say don't ever pray for patience, but I read in the Word that patience has a reward.
Amen.
Anything in the Word that has a reward is something that I want. And so I talked a lot through that time, through the time that I had pneumonia and was getting well. And one of the examples I used was with my son and his wife after having suffered the loss of several children. Yes. The beauty of adopted children and the beauty of adoption, the miracle of adoption is just sort of central to the core of our family.
Yeah. And I think too, Mary Alice, one of the things that I see in your book, Lessons from the Porch, is perspective. Like you just shared being in the classroom of pneumonia. You know, some of the things that you learned while being in that classroom, the suffering of your son, Rip, and his wife, Mona, of, you know, losing several children to miscarriage, but then the joy. Right. Of adoption.
There's nothing like it. The best thing is they don't look like my kids.
and they're two precious, precious grandchildren.
They
and
are.
I know Rip and Mona just love those children, but I think that part of the value of having a mentor, even if it's through the book, like Lessons from the Porch, is that we get that perspective that, yeah, you know, there's sickness, there's suffering in this world, there's difficulty, and yet there's so much joy.
Oh, yes.
And if we can just go through that classroom of learning and hang in there,
yes,
that there really is so much joy on the other side.
Right.
And so I have to ask you too, especially since it's your 49th wedding anniversary, is there a lesson from the porch that you could give us all on a long marriage, on being happily married for a long time?
Yes, pick your battles. Sometimes I have learned to ask myself, because although he's awesome and he's wonderful, he's not perfect. And so I've learned to ask myself, how important is this? Is this really important enough to have a serious discussion about? And usually the answer is no.
Yeah, you know, I've learned that too. I think the first year I thought everything was major important. We had to just nail it all down. Do you know what I'm saying? And now it's just like after 31 years, it's like, no biggie.
I don't want to be married to my girlfriend.
Amen. Yeah, that would not be a good thing. We've got just like a minute left, but you mentioned Ripon and Mona.
Yes.
But you've got another son too, so I don't want to.
Yes, we have an awesome son whose name is Tom Kenley, and he is married to the beautiful Christy, and they live and work right here in Nashville.
And what is a mothering lesson that you could leave us with today?
You know, one of my MOPS ladies called me yesterday and said, please mention the broom and the camera. Because I taught the ladies a lesson one day. Are you a camera mom or are you a broom mom? You walk into the kitchen and the cereal's all over the floor. Do you get the camera or do you get the broom? And of course, obviously, the best answer is the camera.
Now see, I can be honest with you, when I was first a mom, I would have never thought that.
I would not have either.
I would have thought that the broom, you know, and some harsh
words mess cleaned up
about why the cereal is all over the floor.
Yeah.
But you know, when you can come, you know, as a mom and as a woman to that place of just seeing really even beauty in the mess.
Oh, yeah.
It's the perspective.
When my grandchildren leave, we have beautiful sliding glass doors all along the back of our home that look out onto the lake. And I leave those little handprints as long as I can.
I bet you do, because they're beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us
thank you for having me.
Her name is Mary Alice Kenley. The name of the book is Lessons from the Porch, and we'll give you all the information on how you can get that.
For more information on a guest, visit our website, ctntv.org.